and then we'll get started.
Great. Well, we probably have to manually put it back though for
Oh, back to this slide.
yeah. And I didn't know, Julie, did you want to start off or did you want me just to launch in?
If you just want to go right ahead, then that is perfect.
That sounds good. So then you can move to the next slide. Well, thank you everyone for joining today. Uh, And thank you to Julia for organizing this informational session about Portrait of Italy. Before I dive into the tour specifics, just give you a little bit of background about Odysseys Unlimited. We're a tour operator that has been working since 1998, and we've been partnering with the University of Alabama for over 11 years. We're based outside of Boston, Massachusetts, and my name is Kate Heilman. I've been working with the University of Alabama for 9 of those 11 years, so pretty much from the beginning. Um, and this slide here just provides brief overview about us in a nutshell, but we can go on to the next slide so I can go into a little bit more detail. For those of you who haven't traveled with us before, just a few high-level elements about our company and the tours that we have. So we really focus on what we call and would consider a small group travel experience, which is 12 to 24 guests is maximum per tour. We really feel that allows you to have a more intimate and experience, and it allows for a more educational focus, which is why I feel like we're such a great fit for universities. All of our tours include round trip airfare, and we focus on land-based tours. So while will be some brief ship elements on our trips, for the most part, it is motor coach. And for this tour, it is exclusively motor coach, but some of our tours have internal flights and also rail, etc. We have really some of the best tour directors. I'll let John talk about this maybe later on. Hopefully, he will have had that experience. But when I've taken our tours, I'm always struck by how wonderful our tour directors are. They really are the beating heart of our programs. And they not only are knowledge sources for the places you visit, but they can give you that insight into the day-to-day living because they are natives from the countries you're visiting. They live there. They for the most part, grown up there, so they can share about their life experience, what some trends and like what neighbors may be saying, etc. So I think it really helps engage and activate as you participate in the tour. And then I mentioned that round trip air is included. You can also have the option of booking your own airfare if you'd like. Our tours are constructed and priced so it includes extensive sightseeing, so all the entrance fees or admissions. Uh, this tour that I'll be speaking about has many meals, but because of the nature of the places you're going to, it doesn't include, for example, when you're in Rome, we allow people to go and have dinner on their own. But pretty much the price you see is our tours are constructed as all-inclusive packages. So if you want to hit the next slide, please, we'll dive right into the tour. So I shouldn't have a favorite, but Portrait of Italy is perhaps one of my favorites. It's the first Odysseys Unlimited tour I took, actually when I had a role similar to Julia's at the University of Chicago. So I was a host on this tour first. So it's a really great overview of the country of Italy. And I remember, 12 or so years ago when I took this tour, there were several people on the program who had been to many sites throughout the country, but they really wanted to come back and see them again and not have to deal with, trains between cities or buses or dealing with their bags or anything like that. So they were thrilled to come back and have the all-inclusive experience. So this program, it's a 16-day tour. It's a comprehensive overview of Italy. Of course, we can't see everything. It's a very large country. There's a lot to see, but it really does showcase, ancient sites, contemporary life, priceless art, scenery, of course, food, wine. So you begin the tour, but you fly into Naples and then you immediately transfer to the Amalfi Coast and you stay on the Amalfi Coast for 3 nights. Well, you're in Amalfi, use that as your base of operations, and then you have a full day excursion to Pompeii. You go to Sorrento. You also take, weather permitting, a short boat ride along the coast to the town of Amalfi. We stay outside of the town on the coast, but you get to spend the day in Amalfi, and it's a really beautiful, stunning town. You can get a sense of the coastline there in the middle picture. And then obviously everyone can see the map on the far left. And so after our time in Amalfi, we motor coach to Rome. Uh, and on this day, we actually stop as part of the tour en route to the town of Monte Cassino, which is a site of a famous World War II battle. It's also home to the well-known to a well-known abbey that was destroyed during World War II but reconstructed. It's a really interesting site, and you get to see the graves of soldiers from a lot of British, some American, I believe Polish, if I remember correctly, showing how how much of a European effort World War II and the Allies were in during the battle in Italy, that battle in Italy and many others. I found it really fascinating. It wasn't something I was familiar with. And then we reach Rome and we spend 3 nights there. And Rome, of course, you're experiencing all of the highlights of touring the Colosseum, going to the Forum, St. Peter's Square, the Vatican, Sistine Chapel. The way touring is designed while you're in Rome, you spend the morning, usually till about 1:30, seeing the sights, and then you have the afternoons and evenings on your own so people can decide if they want to rest because it is a lot of touring in those mornings. You put in a lot of steps, or if people have restaurants they want to see, other touring. So that's how we've designed our time in Rome. And then we move on to Umbria, centered around the city of Orvieto. And Umbria, which is one of the other things, just as an aside, that I really enjoy about this tour is it's a nice mix of cities such as Rome and Venice and being more in the countryside. So Orvieto, uh, even and Orvieto is a city, but I think it has around 3,000 or so people. It's a walled city, but you're in the pastoral setting of Umbria. And while you're there, you see the Duomo in Orvieto, which is really stunning. It's a beautiful medieval town. You also attend a cooking demonstration, and another highlight while we're in Umbria is going to Assisi, best known as the burial places of Saint Francis, but also Saint Clare, his sister, is buried there as well. Uh, we move on from Umbria to Tuscany, where once again you're seeing beautiful landscapes. We do spend part of a day in Florence. We tour the walled city of Siena, and we also go to the hill town of San Gimignano, which is known for its 13 watchtowers that date back to medieval times. While we're in Tuscany, we visit a local winery and have a wine tasting, of course. And then we end the tour in Venice, where we have, uh, if you wish to spend more time, there is a 3 day on your own extension. But while you're in Venice, you will see, as pictured here, you'll get to see all the major sites. You also do a walking tour to get to know the city better. And what I really like about the hotel we use in Venice is you stay a little further away from the crowds, but because everything is pretty walkable, you can kind of have that quiet breathing time and then head into the more well-known populated areas. So the dates of the tour, September 21st to October 6th, are listed on the PowerPoint there, and that does not include the extension. That extension would be after that, and the extension is on your own. And the price here is our all-inclusive price based on a per person double occupancy price. So this is with flights from Birmingham. We can fly from any city in the US, or you can choose to purchase your flights on your own, and that would change the pricing a little bit. But that's really the tour in a nutshell, and then I'm happy to take questions. Or if there are questions. Well, would it make sense to have John, who kind of took the tour, feel free, John, to add your 2 cents to what I just gave, especially since for me personally taking the tour, it has been almost 12 years, 11 and a half. Before you start, John, I see one question.
Okay.
Hold on. I see a few questions in the chat. So the first question is, will the tour be canceled if there are not enough participants? So the answer is yes, we do always need a certain number of participants to run. Currently, there are 11 guests on tour. As a standard, we say we need a minimum of 12 to operate. Once we get to the point of the final payment date, which is in mid-June, that's when we really make a decision. Sometimes we can operate a tour with 10 or 11. I would expect if this program had 11, we would be able to operate, but 12 is always our guarantee number. If we have 12, it's definitely operating. And then there was a question about the single supplement. Or we should really refer to it as single room occupancy. So there's an additional cost of $1,095 if you are a single occupant in the room. And we currently have 2 single rooms available to reserve on tour. And then in terms of the cancellation option, there's a question about trip insurance. That would be sent to you by the National Alumni Association of Alabama. So Julia could provide you with that information. There's usually multiple options of trip cancellation, but you should know if we cancel a tour because there aren't enough guests to run it, we will fully refund you the deposit or any monies you have paid. If you decide to cancel the tour, that's where the trip insurance would come in because there would be penalties starting after the 95-day mark, which is our final payment date. So those are the questions I see in the chat. So I could probably turn it over to John. And if other questions come up, I'm happy to pop back in.
Sure. So I'm John Gullahorn. I live in Albertville and been associated with the Alumni Association for a long time. But until we went on this tour, I had never traveled with the university. I had never traveled through Odyssey. My wife and I had planned on going to Italy for our 35th anniversary. Thanks to the pandemic, we went on our 40th anniversary. Uh, we went last March, March of 24. And our trip was unique in that we had 12 people from the University of Alabama sign up and 12 people from the University of Nebraska signed up. And that made our 24 over in Europe. My instinct going into the trip was that we wanted to see as much Italy as we could. And 16 days and 15 nights provided that. And after we had done tax, title, and tip, came back and thought about it, it's probably the best trip my wife and I've ever been on. The university set it up well. The Odyssey ran it well. Our tour guide was Mara. We still stay in touch with Mara and some of our Nebraska friends. We've even talked about tailgating at different places and that group of doing it. We had a wonderful time. I'll be glad to answer any specific questions you got, but we felt like we got a good tour of all of Italy from the bottom where we started to the top. The transportation was good. Never had to handle our own luggage. The meals that we were provided were wonderful. We got to meet the chefs. They provided us wine and drinks. We had cocktail parties before and after. Really a great trip. But I'll answer any specific questions anybody's got for me.
Thank you, John. I'm glad to hear it was such a wonderful experience. And Mara is a really great tour director. I always see really strong evaluations for her programs, and I know she's led several of tours that the schools I work with. I did see a few additional questions in the chat. I'll take the second one first about what time do tours begin in the morning. So it really depends on which tour, but specifically for Portrait of Italy, and John, you can correct me if it has been a little bit different, but most days will begin anywhere from 8 till 9:30 in the morning. You know, one of the things we like to do is get to sites, especially in Rome, as early as possible, because as you will see, there are crowds always, and so we try to get the first entrance. So there will be crowds when you get there, but then as you leave, you will see it multiplied usually by 3 or 4. But I would say for this program, it's safe to say most mornings begin around between 8 and 9:30.
My answer to that would be that we started some at 8, the majority at 8:30, but several at 9. We never
Okay.
felt like we were pushed to go too early. Never felt that way. And breakfast was provided everywhere we stayed.
Yes. Yes. See a few more questions. So it is indeed, there's a question mentioning that it is a Jubilee year for the Catholic Church in Italy. So we do expect there to be larger crowds than usual. In general, Portrait of Italy is our #1 best-selling tour. Italy is always very popular, whether or not it's a Jubilee year or not. I think Italy is always crowded. There really is no off season. You know, September, October is a great time to go weather-wise. You also don't have any school children. They're all, for the most part, all Europeans are back from vacation. You know, right now we have groups who are in Italy and in Rome, and of course we're juggling what's going to happen with the funeral plan for the Pope and also the conclave and things like that. So that should all be settled by September, I would expect. It's not going to be a 5-month conclave. Who knows, though? Anything's possible. And I know someone else asked the question about the fall is not a good time for us, if the tour will be repeated another time. This is a tour that Alabama has done, I think, pretty much every year, but fall is traditionally the time we offer it. John, you and your group going in March was a little bit of a change up. We have done a few in the spring. And I believe, Julia, our dates for next year are also in the fall.
Correct.
I think they're right around the same time.
Yes.
Okay. So if, you know, those are the dates that have worked historically for the University of Alabama to offer this tour. And I do see one other question about flights and flight itineraries. So I would say for those specific questions, I would encourage you to call our customer service number, and I'll just put that in the chat actually as we're speaking. Uh, the short answer is itineraries will be created about 85 or so days before the tour departs. So if you take flights with us, the pluses are you get a great value, your transfers are included, but you will not necessarily be able to choose your routing. So if you really care about the routing you have, and the flights that, if you have airline preferences or want to use miles, I would encourage you to book as what we call a land-only guest and arrange for your own flights. When you arrive, there are options for transfers to the first hotel because you arrive in Naples and it is about an hour, 15 or so minutes to the Amalfi Coast, the first hotel. But our customer service staff is happy to talk through options for that. If you do choose flights with us, and you're always able to talk through the routing, our air team will try to choose the best options available. If you're flying out of Birmingham, you may not have the same type of options if you're flying out of Atlanta or New York or DFW, right? It's just sort of a reality. So we definitely try to have the shortest, but not too short of layovers, the best options available. But
So
I would
we,
say, oh, go ahead, John.
I was going to say we let Odyssey plan ours. There was
Hmm.
three couples of us that were traveling together. We specifically signed up together, but Odyssey planned ours. We saw one kink that we wanted to change. We talked to Odyssey. They made it happen. They were easy to work with, and the change we requested they thought was easy to make, and they made it for us. So Odyssey did a good job of planning the airfare too.
Great. That's great to hear. And I would just add, um, I'm imagining, John, you probably called right away when you saw your flights and saw that maybe it wasn't a good timing or there was an issue. But the earlier you call us, the more options we have to see if there are alternatives. So if you do book flights with us, I would say as soon as you get a preliminary air itinerary, which you said is typically emailed around 85 days before departure, so that would probably be around June 20th or so, that you want to check for that and make sure that if you have any concerns, to raise it at that time. Um, I think I hit, oh, apologies if there's noise in the background. I think I covered the questions in the chat. But are there others? I know we've kind of done a deep dive into the weeds, but you know, generally it's a wonderful way to experience the diverse regions of the country. Uh, you won't see everything, we don't go to Sicily or Sardinia or the the western coast there in Italy, but or Apulia, but you do get to see a really great deal on this trip. And I know I enjoyed experiencing the regional differences, just like how we have in our country, whether it's food or language or culture. There's so much to offer in each different region. Um, and another question about ballpark figure of what most people spend on meals that are not included. That's always the toughest question because it really depends on what type of meal you want to have. Uh, I would say, there are people who prefer at lunch to just grab a slice of pizza, which would probably be, you know, you could get a meal for a few euros like that, maybe five or so or seven. Some people want to sit down and have a three-course meal at lunch and at dinner. So it really depends on what you want to experience. Generally, I haven't, and then of course there's a lot of range if you're going to like a four-star or five-star restaurant or anything along those lines, like a Michelin starred restaurant, it's going to be a lot different. I think Italy has a lot of options available for people's budgets. Well, if not, I didn't know. I think you had budgeted, Julia, for about 30 minutes for the meeting. Okay. Any Auburn fans
Let me
allowed?
let me say two final things. First,
Sure.
ironically, of the six people that I was talking about, our group went. Two of my best friends that went are both Auburn fans, and one of their
Oh,
wives is an Auburn fan. And so I laughed that 25% of the Alabama alumni group was Auburn. But still, you look at our pictures in front of the Coliseum, and they're standing behind the Alabama flag. So the last thing I'll say is this: is that when we got back and we had our wine shipped to us and our olive oil and some stuff that we had gotten from where we went to eat shipped back to us, we sat down and talked about this trip and the value we got from the meals, the hotels, the transportation, the entrance fees we had to places. We thought we got more bang for our buck than any other trip any of the six of us had ever been on.
that's that's such a resounding endorsement, John. And I'm really glad that all six of you had that really positive. I think every trip is a little bit of a life-changing experience.
Right.
And
And Julia, if you want to share my email with anybody that has specific questions that they didn't
Okay.
want to do in public, share my email with them. They can email me, and then I could be able to call them or talk to them individually if they want to ask me more personal questions than what we've covered here.
Thank you, John. I will put my email in if anybody wants to reach out to talk to John specifically, or if you have any questions in general, I've got that in the chat as well.
great, thank you. And thank you everyone for being on the call.
Oh, looks like we got one more question. We have 11
Oh,
people signed up right now.
correct. 11, and we always can run with 12. I would expect at 11 we'd be able to operate. Uh, but we'd love to have more, and the more we have, the better chance there could be a representative from the university on the trip. So that's even more incentive.
Well, thank you so much, Kate, and thank you, John, for sharing your experience. And like I said, I got my email in the chat. And if anybody has any questions, feel free to reach out. And thank you for taking the time to listen about the Portrait of Italy. I know it's a lot of people's favorite when they come back from, and it's one that people look forward to every year. So we're very, very excited to offer it again.
Great. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of the day, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.